Hello and welcome to the shed. In today's video we're going to be looking at how to sharpen the bevels of plane blades or chisels. Hope you enjoy. So for this video we're going to be sharpening the bevel on both these blades that were flattened in the last two videos. No ruler trick included. Now the first part of this video is going to be using the Veritas honing jig. That's what I use, that's what I like. And we're going to sharpen the thin stamped blade. And the second part we're going to freehand sharpen this modern Lubin blade here, so the thicker style. Main reason for that is these thicker ones are a little bit easier to demonstrate the freehand sharpening techniques on, but if you can do them on this, you can do them on this one. It's just a little bit harder to reference the bevel. So let's jump down here and we'll get started with the Veritas honing jig. I just want to have a quick look at the stones I'm using. I'm once again using my Atoma diamond stones. These are the loose ones that you saw over here. These are the ones that I've put into this premium jig that most of you have probably seen before. So it's 400, 800, 1200 to strop. These Atoma stones come with a little adhesive front piece, and then I've just stuck them to one of these recognized flat granite plates, and this works well for sharpening bevels. But you can use these ones, but for today I'm going to use this, so let's get these ones out of the way. Now before I get started, if your bevel has a big chip in it, or is in a very bad state, or you're changing the angle of your bevel, I generally go with 30 degrees on most of my bevels for nearly everything. So generally they're coming with a 25 degree bevel, so I do change them. Now this is a process that I used to use before I owned a Tormek for sharpening or resharpening the main part of the bevel. So sandpaper, double-sided tape. See how I set it up in the last video that you can find down below when we're flattening the really bad outer flat. So this is 120 grit sandpaper. You could go up to maybe 80 grit sandpaper, and then you stick it to a substrate and you'll start working in that process until you get the bevel where you want it, and then you can move on to your sharpening stones. So I just recommend doing this process because it does make it much faster. Or if you do have a bench grinder, manual grinder, one of those sort of things, that's going to probably be your fastest bet. But if you don't have either of those, don't have a Tormek, and you're just sticking with basic hand sharpening with a jig or something like that, sandpaper, double-sided tape. So let's have a look at the Veritas honing jig we're going to be using here today. We've got a measurement running across the top here, which is not that easy to see. So you'll actually set it for the width of your blade. To be honest, it doesn't really matter whether it's dead center. It's just a little bit easier if it's dead center. So I don't worry about that measurement. So we slide this on, and if you are using it with the measurement at that 2 inches or wherever you want to set it, you got a little marker here. You do that up. Now with the Veritas jig, you have your degrees here and you have your little number up here. So I've set it to 30 down here, and that's on my yellow one here, so that's what I've set down here. We need to make sure we're facing bevel down like this. Push it up against it, and then you want to evenly do up these screws on the back. So you can see that I've pushed it into the marker and I'm just holding it against it. And then you want these done up nice and tight. Obviously you don't want it to move. Do them up as tight as you can get them. Then I just like to double check that I've got that here. Double check that that was tight. Double check everything. Take it off. And now I've got that set. So you can see this blade here, set at 25 degrees. I like 30. It's a little more durable. It lasts a little bit longer. Doesn't really cut any different. So we're going to be reprofiling this from 20 degrees to 30 degrees. Now that doesn't have to be intimidating at all. We're not going to reprofile the entire bevel as I suggested you could do with sandpaper, unless there's a nick in the blade, which sometimes brand new ones do, which is not great, but I have had it happen. This one, as you can see here, there's no nick in there at all. So what we're going to do is sharpen it at 30 degrees, and essentially what we're going to be doing is creating a micro bevel for this particular sharpening process at this point. Now, I'm not going to worry about it being a micro bevel. I'm not going to treat it like a micro bevel. I'm going to treat it like a primary bevel. And after I've sharpened it a number of times over the course of goodness knows how long, depending on how much you use your hand plane, that bevel at 30 degrees will become your primary bevel. There'll be no micro bevel, and you're just good to go. So don't worry about it. Sharpen it. As long as we get a nice sharp edge along the end there and we can feel our burr, we know we're getting a nice sharp edge and there's nothing to worry about. So let's jump down and get to sharpening. So as usual with this, we're going to start on our coarsest grit. But before I get started, since I've had this sitting around, I like to just give it a spray and a bit of a wipe, just to make sure we've got no errant dust or any other grits hanging around that sometimes land on these sort of things. I like it just nice and clean. So we've got it clean. If it was a little tarnished like these ones, you can use the grit blocks, clean them up. We don't have to worry about this on this one. So when I've got these three, I actually sort of, hopefully the sprayer works properly. So we'll squirt them across here. What I'm going to do here is just blacken this. It's not really necessary with a brand new blade and with a jig, but I'm just going to put a little line there just so you can reference and see what's going on. So come down here. Now this has got the wheel in the center. It's a wide wheel, it's not a narrow wheel. If you've got one of those jigs that sits on top and it's a narrow wheel, you need to make sure you keep even pressure on both sides so it doesn't rock like this. This one you can actually hold it straight in the middle, but I still like to hold it like this, and I just stick my thumbs in behind the blade here. And we're not pushing down, we're just pushing it across the surface. Now, we can see here we've taken off this side. I can actually feel a burr. The burr is actually pushed with the permanent marker onto the back side here, but we haven't gone all the way across yet, so we need to continue. If you want to make sure that you're pushing your blade right up here, you can actually turn the whole thing around and go like this. And that gets you right up into this area that this jig takes up. But for this demo, I'm just going to keep it this way. So, feeling for the burr, which you can see on the back there, I'm pretty sure you should be able to. I can see that it's folded over from this side. I can feel it along with my fingers, but it's still not on that corner. And we can still see it's still not there. So, I'm going to work this a little bit longer. Some people, when it goes out like this, they suggest you push more pressure down on one side than the other. Don't do that. Refrain from doing that. It's not a good idea. Even pressure across the entire bevel is what you want. If you start pressing down and then you end up rolling the bevel and all that sort of thing, it's not good. Believe it or not, it doesn't quite look like it's sharpened there, but I can feel a burr right out to that far edge now. Now, when it comes to feeling a burr, your little pinky finger, right on the very tip of it, is the most sensitive, and you'll feel that you're not running your finger across the cutting edge to cut yourself. What you're feeling for is it's formed a little metal hook on the edge, and what that does, you'll feel it actually pull your skin. So since we've got a larger one down here, you can probably see that on camera there. If you look on the front, you can probably see it folded over too. Now, what I want to do is, I know I can feel it there, it's very fine, that's really all I need. I'm just going to go a few more passes just to really ensure that I got a decent edge there, because if I do look at the cutting edge, I can see that it is there, but I just like a little bit of extra security to make sure that it is really there. So don't be afraid to do a few extra passes, especially on your first grit. So now a lot of people, and me in the past, have said, remove the burr. No, we're not going to remove the burr. I know it's a good reference, but I don't do that anymore. What we do is we don't remove the burr until over here on our last grit. Because what happens is, the burr will get larger and larger and bend further over, and then the metal right on the edge as you sharpen it on the finer grits thins out and it actually comes off easier. So that's why we're not going to remove it. It also cuts out that step. So what we do now is we'll kind of look at the scratch pattern Can we see whether that scratch pattern changes? Well, yeah, we should be able to. So this middle grit shouldn't take too long. This is 800 grit. Could use permanent marker, but as I've mentioned in the past, because I use automotive window cleaner, it takes the permanent marker off, so it's not the best indicator. It doesn't always take it off, but most of the time it does. When you've got your original machining still on here, you can kind of see it change as well. So for me, that has changed enough. I know from experience that 20 to 50 passes, it's going to change that grit pattern. I can sort of see it. I know it's quite difficult for you to see on the camera. It always is a difficult one. The other thing you will feel, especially where I had the burr thinner here, is you'll actually feel that the burr is much larger. You'll see that it's sort of flaking off in a few spots, and that tells you got right to that edge because you've started to weaken that burr and you're knocking it off. So as we can see here, there's some really flaky bits of it, but the burr's kind of broken off in a few spots. Now, the two grits that you're nearly always going to spend the longest on is your most aggressive grit and your finer grit. Don't skimp on your finer grit. This is going to get it to that right position before you go to your strop. So, if anything, I think this is the most vital. And once again, that has certainly changed grits there. Hopefully you can see that. I'm very much hoping you can. I know it's a little hit and miss on camera. I can see that more of the burr's fallen off, and in actual fact we don't have much left here. So at this point, you take our blade out of the jig. Be very careful. That is sharp now. Although we haven't finished honing it, it is very sharp. With your jig, never take the blade back through your jig. You might damage your edge. Always grab it, pull it through this way. Any jig, always take it away from your cutting edge. You don't want to damage the work you've just done. So now that we're at that point, we put it flat on our stone. Side to side, back and forwards. If you've got the loose stones like these ones, you can run it up and down the side. There's no real advantage. We strop at this point. We do freehand strop. There's no point in stropping with the jig. It doesn't achieve anything. You've got to pull it all towards you anyway. Now, we can see there's no burr sitting on there on the stone. If there's a little bit of fine burr there, we'll deal with that on the strop. Essentially, a strop is the best thing for removing a burr. But a little bit on your stone is a good way just to remove any of that bigger part of the burr. We can already see this has got some honing compound. I'm just going to give this a little bit more because I've got a wider blade. Don't be afraid to add a little bit more. So I'm holding it like this. I'm not pushing heavy down, and if anything, I'm sort of angling it a little bit off the edge. Ideally you're looking to match that 30-degree angle, but if it's off a little bit, that doesn't matter. So this is part of our freehand sharpening, which we'll get to, but I hold it like this. This hand over here helps support. Fingers in here, lock the wrist, don't move your wrist. And then move from the shoulders. Trying to stop your elbows from moving, so you lock that there and just rock at the shoulders. About 50 times. Or however many times. But it's starting to look nice and polished. You know you got there. But you're placing down and you're pulling across the surface without digging that front part in, because you don't want to roll that sharp bevel, because we want a nice flat plane here, we want a nice flat bevel here. That's how we get a very sharp edge. Now say, it's not a mirror polish, we're not looking for a mirror polish, but it's shiny. You can see that how it's like really just blanking out on the light because there's so much shining off it. Now we want to ensure that that burr is fully gone. We've finished essentially sharpening the bevel. Now we're going to ensure there is no burr by stropping the back and the bevel. Best way to do this is start on the back 5 times on your bevel. 5 times. 4. 3. 3. 2. 2. 1. 1. And then 1. 1. About 5 times. Sometimes this is a little bit of overkill, but now this is very, very sharp. I'll find a piece of paper in a minute. That's not necessarily the best test. We're not looking to cut paper here. The best test is to get under a light. So if I get under my light here, and you want the light to shine down on the top. So you keep your head a little bit back, have the light shine down on top, and if there's any spot that's not sharp, there's going to be a flat along the top here. With that light, any flat will show up and that light will reflect back at you. So if you see any light spot on that bevel, you know that you've missed a spot and you have to go back and continue sharpening. Now, I don't know if this is going to show up with the camera light there. I'm going to try and do the best to try and show you that edge there. Let's just get my face out of the way and we will see. I'm not sure, but there should be nothing jumping back, and hopefully there's nothing jumping back on the camera for you. It might be catching the back. But this is now sharp. This, with the back flattened and the bevel, is ready to be used. The only step left in the plane sharpening system now is to get our chip breaker ready for this. So now that we've got that done, let's move on and have a look how we freehand sharpen. So what I've done here is I've angled the camera for you on purpose because I think it allows you to see what's going on with the blade just a little bit better. So the first step, always clean off all the old crud. We don't want any of that on our stones. It's also a great way of actually keeping your stones nice and clean. Make sure there's no little bits of paper and all this sort of thing. If you've used paper towel like I happen to have done, it was just what was close. Normally I have a fabric rag here, but I seem to have misplaced it. So we've got that clean. Here's our bevel, and if you look at this one, you can see I've done the same with this one when I got it brand new. I put it to 30. I haven't sharpened it enough, so these have a much larger bevel, so it takes a lot longer for it to disappear. I've sharpened this blade 10, 15 times probably. I haven't used this blade that much because this is the show blade that I've used before. I actually do have another one of these blades in my lubin over there that's been sharpened a lot more times. But this is the one we're working with today. So you can see that there is that double bevel. That's our 30 degrees. Now, when you freehand sharpen, you don't always get these nice flat bevels. You tend to get more of a rolled bevel. And that's fine. That's what I like when I freehand sharpen. Not a dead flat bevel that you get with these jigs. You get a slight rolling to it, and that is actually not a bad thing. It allows, in my opinion, the shaving comes off to actually curve a little bit easier. It still works perfectly fine with the flat bevel, but I think it works ever so slightly better without that, with the little curve there. So when you freehand sharpen, the water that you use, I'm going to put a lot more on here just so you can see to start with. I'm going to bring you in here. But first of all, the way we hold the blade. I hold it like this. You can sort of try and hold it front on and go like that. I don't like that. I like to angle it. It's a little more natural for me to go like this. You can come front on, as I said, but for me, this angle is what I want. I'm going to show you what I'm doing to start with, square on, just so you can see it a little bit easier. So this angle over the top, extra fingers here. It really depends. Sometimes as long as I'm getting reference with my fingers across the edge, that's what matters. and then I'm holding it so it doesn't slide. When I'm in that position, you then lock the wrist like we did when we were stropping. And I like to bring it, at least when you're first starting, bring it here so you can get this close to your body. And so you're locking your wrists, your hand, your wrist, your elbow, even your shoulders, although you can start, once you get used to it, use your shoulders. But we get to this position and then we just rock the body. And this allows you to hold the angle once you've got it. It makes it a little bit easier. Once you're used to it, you can pick it up after you've done it a number of times. I don't really have to rock my body anymore. I've got used to it. I can rock from the shoulders and still lock it and keep it where I want it. But when you're first beginning, try that. I've had a number of people tell me that that is actually really helpful. And it's what I did when I first started because I struggled with the freehand sharpening. So you saw me put a lot of fluid on here before. I'm just going to put a little bit more. The fluid helps you with this. So when you're finding your angle, we can see back here, the liquid's moving, but it's not moving right on our cutting edge. As we lift it up, we're still not moving it. Once we get it on the edge, you can see here, it's moving the fluid in front. So as I come back here, your little bow wave follows you through. That tells you that you've got the angle. So if you come back, see, it's still moving it, but it's not right on the edge. Still not quite there. Once you get there, you can see that you got it on the edge there. So that's a reference that I always use. So with that in mind, I go to how I hold it, like this, and there we go. So let me show you the process with rocking from the hips. So I get there. Now, that's good when you're first starting. To get a slight roll to the bevel, which you will pick up from doing that, when it's here, you make sure that it's gauged. As you move away, you can actually drop it down a little bit. This is a more advanced way of doing it, and sometimes it's a little more natural for some people. On a blade like this, it doesn't, I don't think that necessarily works the best. But if you do lift it up a little bit, even on this angle, it doesn't really matter. So the way that I do it is move from the shoulders, and you can see, once you got it there, you can actually do this quite quick. Because you know you're not moving the angle, you know you're holding it there. But I still don't have a bevel, a little burr there, so let's just sharpen this. But the most important thing is your fluid on the top, your lapping fluid, is going to help you keep referenced. Now, if you are doing it where you lock everything and just move the hips, make sure you have 1 foot forward, your number forward, left in my case because I'm right hand, and you're right back, and then just rock off the foot. It's going to allow you to get that motion, just rocking on your feet without causing too many issues. But obviously I'm going to do it my way because I've got used to it, it's much faster. Just by moving it at the shoulders once you can maintain it. But if you want to practice just from the shoulders, just make sure you keep the fluid there. And once you get comfortable, as you can see here, you can move all around the stone so you don't miss any. But don't be too afraid if it does pull away like that at the front. So I'm starting to get a burr over in this section, but you can still see I haven't hit that. So you just gotta, sometimes you need to reset these blades with the sharpening jig, but obviously this is from the sharpening jig, so we're kind of reinstating this freehand. So you could do this part on sandpaper first. Or you can see it's a much more robotic process here. It is a bit slower because you can't really speed it up like this. But as I said, this is my preferred way, and you'll get the confidence to start doing this eventually. But you can see what's happening here is I'm kind of moving from the shoulder here. But the most important is the wrist, fingers and hands are locked and do not move. So now I can feel the burr all the way along. Now, just like with on the honing jig, don't shortcut this first stone. If you don't feel a burr, keep going until you do feel a burr. Even if you have to make it a much bigger burr to feel it, which is not ideal. If you can't feel a burr, you don't want to move on, because you're not going to get that sharp edge. You're going to have a few issues down the line once it's in your hand plane, and it'll feel like it's gone blunter quicker because it was never properly sharp. So we've cleaned our first stone down. If you've got a setup like this, I'm actually just going to wet both of them. Can't have too much. So whichever process I showed you on this one that you want to follow with this, go ahead. I'm going to do what I'm used to on the angle here. Sometimes I'll feel like just changing it up. So don't be afraid to change it up a little bit if you want to. But generally I just do it the same process. Because once you've got a blade ready to go, it's like maybe 20 seconds here, 20 seconds here, 30 seconds here, that sort of thing. That's how quickly you're pretty much getting it back to a sharp edge. Now that I'm happy, definitely a much bigger burr. Apologies for the plane if you can hear it. So you can see it's folded over. I can definitely feel it where it was much finer over here. I can feel that now. Onto our fine stone. Yep, you can hear that extra grit sound. It means that it's flicked a little bit of metal or something across my other stones onto this one. So let me just give that a quick clean. Alright, I can see the grit's gone now. Just got to be careful sometimes. You don't want any errant grit causing issues. I'm feeling a much bigger burr, and while it's not perfect, because I'm sort of curving it a little bit, we can see the grit pattern has changed there. There's a couple of deeper groovings in there in a few spots. I'm not going to worry about that. I've never really worried about that. So then we do what we did before. Angle it up, drop it down, make sure it is flat. Now we strop. Once again, I'll strop like this. I think I need it a little bit closer just for comfort. And sometimes put your fingers down it. I don't always. still aim for roughly 50. Doesn't matter if it's a little bit less, it doesn't matter if it's a little bit more. You can see what looks like a little hair just dangling off the end there. That is our burr. So now we can see that that burr is still in place. So we need to go through the process of both sides and hopefully it'll pop that off right the way along the blade. There's also another little bit just here where my finger is. I'm not sure if you can see that. There's another little bit of burr there. So let's see if we can use the strop to get rid of that. Now I've got a little bit of it here that I can see on my strop and another little bit of it just here. You want to keep that off your strop so it doesn't get in the way. I'm not so sure I counted that properly, but I'm happy with my passes. It's not exact. Once again, get your light above, look down on it, and make sure that you got nothing shining back at you. Let's see if we can get that on the camera once again with that light behind it, my face not in it. I don't know, it's pretty tricky. Hopefully it works. And there we have it. 2 blades, sharpened and ready to operate. Now, I said I'd grab a piece of paper, so let's grab a piece of paper and see how well they cut, just to see if they're sharp. I don't like to do it as a test that you see some people shaving hairs and all this sort of thing. The best test, which I have shown in the past, is to actually nick your fingernail. If it's not sharp, it won't actually grab it, but it's a little bit dangerous, and so I don't really advocate for that anymore. The light test is actually your best test, in my opinion. So let me grab a piece of paper, we'll switch over to the main camera, and see if this slices a bit of paper. So the first blade seems pretty sharp to me. And yes, I am using this bevel down because this is how the planes operate. You'll see a lot of people do it the other way, but it's not the right way. So there you have it, folks. I hope you enjoyed the 2 methods there, whether it's freehand or non-freehand, vintage style blades, modern blades. The process is the same. The types of stones you use can change, whether it's sandpaper, water stones, oil stones, but the process can stay the same across any of these systems. So if you like this video, please do like and subscribe down below. While you're down there, do sound off in the comments. And if you'd love to see another great video in this sharpening series, do check out the videos on screen now. Bye for now.